All right, welcome back everyone to day number 2 of Enterprise Blockchain Week. What is Enterprise Blockchain Week? It is an event brought to you by Access Blockchain Association of Malaysia, along with its many media partners, including Bitcoin Malaysia, Blocklime, TalkChain, ETHKL, Grenade, App Media, DeFi Singapore, and Imperium Universe. Enterprise Blockchain Week is part of a larger event called Malaysia Blockchain Month, which is happening for an entire 6 weeks. How it works is that every single day for just 1 hour, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m., Monday to Friday, we're bringing you new education content, and every single week is a different theme. On week number 1, we covered what are the developments here locally in Malaysia. On week number 2, we covered DeFi. On week number 3, we have covered NFTs. Week number 4, enterprise blockchain, which is the week that we're in right now. Week number 5, we're going to have a lot of developer boot camps, and week number 6, we're ending Malaysia Blockchain Month with a 2-day conference called Ignite. Wow, 6 weeks of events. Why are we doing this? That's a lot. The reason why we're doing this is as an association, part of our mission is to grow an industry. How do we do that? By defomoing the space, increasing the amount of education content that is available out so that more people would be able to understand, experience, and even enjoy the technology that is already available today. What kind of industry are we looking at? An industry where digital assets exist and live on the internet, and they are secured by these decentralized networks called a blockchain. And if you look at what has happened in this industry, this year was very interesting because we hit $1 trillion for the first time in January this year, if you add them all up. And that took 12 years to get to this point. But guess what? Even it took 12 years to get this. We're now in September. Fast forward 9 months later, we've already hit $2 trillion, and that's based on today. So that's how quickly this industry is growing. The question is, how are we, Malaysians, people in Southeast Asia, able to capture the opportunities available? It all starts, with education, with understanding what kind of skills, what kind of the talents, what kind of problems to solve. And this week, we are focusing on how blockchain can be used in the enterprise sector, in the small to medium businesses, solve problems there. Now, what you need to know before we go into our guest speaker for today, number one, not everything needs a token. Uh, it's all about solving problems. Okay. So yesterday there was some questions. Okay, I think that there was left unanswered. Some of you asked like, why doesn't Anchain have a token? Or you probably might ask a similar question today. Why doesn't Hyperledger has a token, etc. What you need to know is that what is presented, throughout Enterprise Blockchain Week is the technology, that is enabled by such frameworks and blueprints. So things like Anchain, Hyperledger, they provide the blueprint, the Lego blocks, you could say, to build solutions from scratch. And and how you use it is all about solving solving problems about trust, because that's what these decentralized technology are able to do by reducing intermediaries, by increasing efficiency, more transparency. For example, as you will learn more today, like Hyperledger, how Walmart uses this to solve problems in the food supply chain industry. So some of you might heard of Walmart before. It's a huge food chain supermarket, and because they are so big, right? There is like huge health risk, safety issues. So how is it that they can actually, like track if something goes wrong in the food supply chain? So they use Hyperledger and they build a solution around this that allows them to trace the provenance of food, through its source, from what used to be 7 days, to basically find out what batch and all that, down to just 2.2 seconds. So to learn more about the different kinds of use cases, right, we have invited, three special guest speakers today. They are Julian Gordon, Simon Ulrich, and Levine, to help us understand more about the ecosystem that is in Hyperledger. Julian, Levine, Simon, welcome. Thank you for joining us at Enterprise Blockchain Week.
It's a
Thank you,
pleasure.
Jason.
Thank you for
Right.
having us.
So there's a lot to cover, really excited to start. Okay, but Julian, can you begin by sharing with us, okay, some updates, okay, in the Hyperledger ecosystem?
Okay. So, okay, excellent. So welcome, everybody. It's great to be here today. Thank you, Jason, for that introduction. I think it's important to note we're not just about tokens, Hyperledger, it's that underlying technology which enables many parties to have a single source of truth, so basically trust. So what I'm going to talk about today is I'm going to talk a little bit about open source blockchain, and how that's changing the world. And we're looking particularly at Hyperledger, and we're looking at CBDCs to supply chain to vaccine credentials. So we are helping business problems, societal issues. We're basically doing that with blockchain technology, the underlying blockchain technology today. So I'm now going to skip through these slides. I think I have maybe 20 to 30 minutes. Is that right?
Yes.
Please do give me a warning when you want me to curtail. So what is Hyperledger? So Hyperledger is it's an open source blockchain initiative underneath the Linux Foundation. It's been developed as a place for people, multiple parties, to come to develop technology and to accelerate the development of technology for Hyperledger, for blockchain and for businesses. And it's particularly aimed at business blockchain. There is a background noise. Is that from somewhere? I don't know if anyone needs to mute.
Okay, I think we will mute. Okay. How's that?
That's a lot better. Thank you. So this is Hyperledger. So Hyperledger started 5 years ago. A bunch of companies from the Linux Foundation, including IBM, you've got someone from here today, IBM, Intel, JP Morgan, a bunch of startups, including people like Digital Assets, got together and said, we want to develop enterprise blockchain, and we want to not all individually develop it as a community. And out of that came what has now been a 5-year extraordinary growth of Hyperledger and the software that we have developed. I think maybe it's good to understand a bit about what the Linux Foundation and why that's important. The Linux Foundation was set up to help manage Linux. If you're technical, you probably know what Linux is. It is the operating system, the open source operating system, which was developed by Linus and has developed into between 60 and 90% of the world's compute runs on Linux. Very, very successful project. The Linux Foundation was able to create this very vibrant community, which consisted of developers, the ecosystem of business and technical communities, all coming together, and universities, just the whole ecosystem. And with that, you get a vibrant community amongst many different companies developing off software. They decided about 8 years ago to do this in other domains, and now we have it in edge computing. We have it in the telco industry. We have Kubernetes, which is all in the cloud, provisioning, basically the plumbing of the world, the technology plumbing of the world. Most of the largest open source projects are underneath the Linux Foundation. We are a non-profit, and everybody is welcome to come and contribute, get involved in our communities. So what's been our progress? So since 5 years, and if we're all physically, I would give you all a T-shirt with 5 years of Hyperledger. So we have been going for 5 years. We have 15 different code bases, and I'm going to quickly walk those through for those who are more technically minded. We've had over 3 of those are at that production release. We have members. We have about 200 members globally, plus thousands and thousands of companies using our technology. And we have many active working communities, and I'm going to talk a bit about that. Meetup groups, anybody can join, lots of participants. We have this really vibrant community. And we are probably, I think, one of the key places that people go to develop blockchain technology. So if you look at this slide, this is what we call our greenhouse, because ultimately what we do at Hyperledger is that we write code. So these are all the different code bases or frameworks, we like to call them, that are within Hyperledger. As I said, there's about 15 of them. The ones that may be key to everybody are the top 6. These are all distributed ledgers or blockchains, or the software that develops BLTs. The most successful and probably most famous is Hyperledger Fabric. This was contributed originally by IBM back in 2016, along with Digital Assets, and that has just grown from strength to strength. And I would say it's probably the number one permissioned blockchain today in terms of the software. It isn't like a blockchain like we're talking about at the beginning, a cryptocurrency. This is the software that develops the underlying technology, which you then develop a blockchain with. So that's Hyperledger Fabric. Hyperledger Sawtooth, another contributed by Intel, also very, very successful. We have many great implementations around that. We have Aroa. I'm going to talk a little bit about Aroa later. That's more mobile. We have the second retail CBDC in the world in Cambodia, was developed, for instance, on Aroa. Indy, that's the whole area, and I'm going to look at that a little bit, about decentralized identity and the ability to use a blockchain to create a privacy-preserving way of managing identity on the internet. This is something we've been looking at for a long time, so they call it self-sovereign identity, and Hyperledger Indy does that along with Aries, and this is definitely one of the leading platforms, and we're seeing a lot of that around, for instance, COVID credentials. We have a separate project actually called Linux Foundation Public Health, where we're doing the whole GAN, Google Android tracking for COVID in terms of track and trace, and also we're looking at COVID credentials and the ability for you to present your COVID credentials in a secure fashion, and that's been very successful. Burrow is another project that was, if you're technically again, that is on Solidity contracts. It is the EVM and for Ethereum. So these two projects are around Ethereum. And Besu, another project which was contributed by Consensus, must be nearly a year and a half, if not 2 years ago. That is an Ethereum, a Java-based Ethereum client. And if you talk about Quorum today, you may know Quorum, which is contributed by JP Morgan. This is very similar to that. In fact, it looks like these two code bases are coming close together. Both the teams that develop the majority are working with Consensus. So this, for instance, Besu, there's a number of NFTs. I know that's a very hot subject, a lot of DeFi, as well as a lot of CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. It's probably one of the top platforms it's definitely in Asia Pacific. We have Hong Kong, Australia, Thailand, a bunch of countries using Besu for their central bank digital currencies. Then we have a bunch of libraries. I'm not going to go these in details. This is something around, we have one around interoperability, and interoperability is a hot subject, very much so, and becoming increasingly so with this world of change that we have. And Quilt was an original one contributed by Ripple, and I think it was Hitachi, and we also have a bunch of tools. Avalon is really about off-chain. It's quite technical. I'm not going to go into that today. It's basically the ability to take stuff off-chain and process it remotely. It's all around the secure, the trusted compute foundation, which was part of the enterprise Ethereum, and it's all about how we can speed up blockchain by taking data off chain, but in a secure way, like maybe using a secure enclave of a chip. Cactus is also around interoperability. I'm going to talk a bit about that. Caliper is benchmarking. That came from Huawei, and a bunch of other projects. And we have a bunch of labs. And I thought, as I think a lot of people here are involved in development, we have a whole labs, and where it's about 47 different Hyperledger labs now, and these are different projects. So to get into that lab, into the Hyperledger greenhouse, it's quite a lot of hurdles, right? You have to be a project with multiple people involved. It has to have a certain level of support. It has to go through our technical steering committee, and there's quite a lot of judgment before that comes in. But Hyperledger Labs, it's a far easier, more rapid way. Some may not come out of it. For instance, Cactus, which we showed, did come out of this. But here's some of the things. So if you're a technologist, please look at these labs. Look at these. There's lots of pull requests that are out there. So if you want to get involved, things like blockchain automation framework, which is contributed by Accenture, that is very much around provisioning, helping provision rapidly provision, not just Hyperledger, but Corda and other technologies as well, and things like carbon counting. This has been produced by our special interest group around carbon credits and the accounting of that, which is obviously around global warming and what we all have to do to save the planet. So very important. And these last two projects here, was contributed, I believe, by IBM and you. These are two more interoperability projects. So we're seeing a bunch of different projects now coming in the interoperability space, and it's a lot of excitement in that area. So if you're interested, please don't go look at our labs. This is actually another one, Firefly. This is a multi-party system. This is a very popular project as well, a multi-party system for enterprise data flows powered by blockchain. This is another and as you can see, there's lots of Fabric ones. There's IBM blockchain platform offering. It's now open source, IBM open sourced. A lot of it's platform offering that you used to have to pay for is now being open sourced as well there. So a lot of new stuff in our projects. So if you're technical, please do look at that. These are all open source. This is 100% technical community. It's 100% open. Anybody, you can be a school kid, you could be a professor, you can work in any country in the world, you can get involved, and everybody is welcome. We like diversity. The more diverse in terms of every version of diverse, the more successful projects are. And this project's, and if you're somebody successful in open source, it's a success for everyone because it's open to everybody. And as I said, it's led by diverse technical contributors. Actually, our technical steering committee is voted in by our contributors. So this is a full, you can't exert influence beyond being part of that technical community in the technical area. So I just talked a little bit about Fabric. Fabric is, I think, the most successful of the projects, but others are also equally becoming as successful. But it's the #1 enterprise blockchain, and these are just some of the projects. I think you had Ant Financial, I saw yesterday, present. They have Hyperledger Fabric along with, I think, Quorum and their own technology. We have Huawei, who just have Hyperledger, AWS, Oracle, BSN, which is coming from China. We have IBM, obviously, famously, and Tencent, Lenovo, JD. I can give you a long list. These are actually just a few of them who provide what we call blockchain as a service. So you don't have to go to our code base, load it up. You can use this technology. You can still go and get the source code. You can still, and there are, like I said, open source codes that help you set up. But these are all the companies out there who are helping developers and companies get the benefit of using blockchain, and especially Hyperledger blockchain in this case. Just another indicator of the success of Hyperledger Fabric. This is the Forbes magazine. Every year they do a top 50 blockchain companies. They go around the world. They send out a survey, and this year these are a collection of the companies, and 60% of them were using Hyperledger. Technology, predominantly Hyperledger Fabric. Everything we mentioned, Walmart. So Walmart are still working with that, with that. Mango, I think at 2.2 seconds. I remember when that happened in China previously. They were tracking beef, and now they're working with some of the largest retailers in the world, food retailers, tracking through the Food Trust network that IBM also is part of. We have companies like China Construction Bank, ICBC, first and second largest banks in the world from China. They're using it predominantly for very large trade finance networks. China Construction Bank have done over, I think they said 30, that was quite a while ago now. These networks have been running for a long time. I think they've done over $50 billion worth of extended letters of credit, they said, on Hyperledger technology. And I can go on and on. Tech Mahindra have a very good case study around spam calls in India. It's one of the largest networks there is, blockchain networks, and that's working with the regulators in India to track between the telcos, mobile operators, so they can track spam calls and stop those across different networks in a secure way without having to give business information over to your competitor. Yeah, those Honeywell are working with airline parts, HSBC, BHP. They are also around the trade finance area. So just to give you a little bit of indication, I love this report from PwC. It gives you their kind of view to 2030. They said most businesses will be using blockchain technology by 2025, and it'll be 1.76 trillion basically benefit, impact, economic benefit around the world by 2030. And as you can see, China is up there with US. I didn't find a figure for Malaysia. I had to find that figure for Malaysia, but it's showing billions of dollars of benefit in terms of new business models, creating greater efficiencies, allowing intercompany flows, especially around things like supply chain, provenance, payments, etc. And they picked out 3 different areas, which I'm going to pick today. First one is payments and financial instruments, and they said that would increase global GDP by 433 billion. A significant boost, right? There's many areas. So they're talking about opportunity for new instruments, and I'm going to talk a little bit about stable coins and CBDCs. And if you're new to this, there's kind of 3 buckets in the kind of payment area, right? We have CBDCs, which are central bank digital currencies, of which you can see here, Bank of Cambodia was the first, the second in the world, it says there, retail CBDC, and it's allowing the unbanked in Cambodia to use their phone to store the local currency, plus I believe USD, to be able to basically unbanked manage their money and store their money in a privacy fashion using that. We also, as I said, 86% of central banks are using CBDCs, and many of them have pilots. So the EU said it's going to do it. Nearly every country, 60% said they're going to have pilots. In fact, there's a great, if you can track the MAS, Monetary Authority of Singapore, have done which we've worked with them as well. They did a competition where they go down to 15 different companies who are building CBDCs to get through there are some issues still, obviously, around CBDCs. It's replacing not replacing, it's an addition to cash, and it's going to be a central bank. It's very much key to what you do in terms of an economy of a country, so they have to be very, very careful and very careful with what they do. So we're seeing a lot around that, and in CBDCs, I would say there's 3 different areas. You have retail, which the Bank of Cambodia, retail CBDCs, and that's the ability for you and I here to have maybe a wallet in a phone which has a central bank digital currency, has your here a Hong Kong dollar, has your renminbi, has your ringgit, and you'll be able to transfer that electronically as a real currency that's really truly backed by your central bank. That's relative to other areas, which is with stable coins. We're seeing a lot of work around stable coins, and of course cryptocurrency. Those are the kind of 3 buckets of technology that we're seeing. Also, we're seeing stuff in stock exchanges. I've got a short time today, so I'm going to quickly go through this. Many stock exchanges, Singapore Stock Exchange. Here we have Tel Aviv Stock Exchange doing a lending platform. The last one here is Bondi Value. This, I think, is a great project. This went through, it's a company called Bondi Value, have created the first bond blockchain-based exchange. It's called Blondbox, and it enables you to trade corporate bonds and fixed income corporate bonds. It has gone live. It went through the Singapore sandbox, the MAS sandbox, and it's come out. And you can they can take a bond, you can split it up. You can buy bonds for as low as $1,000. And normally the bond market, corporate bonds, are very hard to get into. So this is something, definitely look that up. We do have a success story you can look at on our website, but a great example here in Southeast Asia of a world first around an exchange. Other area, supply chain and provenance. I think Jason mentioned this. Ultimately, the ability to pull people across the world together and provide transparency and trust into the supply chain creates a great efficiencies, especially in, I would say, in trade finance. We have a whole SIG around trade finance, the ability for the buyer and the seller to be able to see what's going on down the supply chain when a container is, let's say that there's when a container is moving across the world, to be able to track that container in a secure fashion, and also be able to track any kind of buyer to seller kind of transaction. And that's what WeTrade is doing. And they have a group of banks there's other examples here. We have DLT ledgers in Singapore. We have in Thailand. We have a blockchain a consortium around guarantees. We have E-Trade Connect here in Hong Kong. We have there's a multiplicity of different networks out there, and please do come to, and actually a brand new one was GSBN, which is the Global Shipping Blockchain Network, which was just announced or Business Network, which just announced about 4 weeks ago, which is some of the biggest shipping companies here in China around the world, who are along with TradeLens is another one in that space. So a lot of very exciting, tracking millions and millions of containers, and now I would say well over half the capability, over half of the world's companies tracking those, if not more, the shipping tracking that around the world. Walmart, I'm not going to talk about that anymore, but that is in the supply chain and providing the ability to track where your food came from when you buy it. Ledger domain, this is an area that has become, I think COVID has been terrible in many ways, but one thing it has done is accelerated this need for trust, this ability to track, especially in PPE. And this is a great example here. And we have many, many examples of tracking of pharmaceuticals. And this is a tracking actually pharmaceuticals for young children, a very expensive pharmaceutical. I think they cost it's like $100,000 US. These are the Breen chain, and they were tracking those down to the children who needed those in that hospital. And we have many, many examples of PPE tracked around the world. Identity, I'm not going to go through this in detail, but yeah, identity, a big area that we're working on is IATA is an example of the travel pass. They're using Hyperledger Aries, which I mentioned, about tracking for airlines, tracking your COVID certificate. So you can track your credentials on a phone, your COVID credentials, whether that be a test, whether that be actually the fact you've got a vaccine. I'm going to skip through this quickly. I'm going to talk about how you can get involved in Hyperledger. So Hyperledger is an open source. It's a community. It's open to everyone. As I said, diversity is important to us, and we would like you to get involved. The more people looking at code, the more people watching the code, the more people developing the code, but also the more people working in the ecosystem around developing each verticals, different areas. It just creates greater benefit to you, to everybody. So we would like you to come and join us who are developing this technology and hopefully accelerating this technology so that we all can get the benefits sooner. We have community working groups. So this is the more technical area. If you're technical, we have a technical steering committee that makes all the decisions. We have all these different working groups. We talked about identity, and you can just go and join these, right? You go to our website, actually go to our wiki, as you can see it down, hyperledger.org, and we have all this information. Just go there and get involved, see what we're doing, get involved. We have performance and scalability, smart contract. We have a technical working group in China, and we have a diversity and civility and inclusion working group, which is also, as I said, very important to us. An area that I think maybe more interesting to people here is around the verticals. There's no point us developing, the most fantastic code in the world, the greatest technology, if it doesn't have some kind of business or societal outcome. So we have like-minded individuals have got together and are developing and pulling the community together who are working in healthcare, telecom, supply chain, social impact, climate action, which I mentioned is all around global warming, public sector, capital markets, trade finance, which I help manage, and that's in this time zone, so please do collect on that, and media entertainment. And we do have a new one for manufacturing. So if you're interested in smart manufacturing, please do get involved in that. That's actually coming from out of China, and we're getting groups around the world to work out how we can get even further down that supply chain to the ERP system, and how identity of not just individuals or companies, but individual like IoT identity, how can we manage that and track that around the world as well, especially around manufacturing. As I said, a special interest group, subscribe to our mailing list. They're all open. Get into our meetings. Go to our YouTube channel. We have a long history of SIGs recordings from meetups, recordings from all our member summits. You just please go there and have a look. You can join a regional chapter. We do, and I think that's what we're going to talk about in our chat today. We do have regional chapters. Most relevant here is the Indian chapter, and actually it doesn't mention here we do have a Japan chapter. But should we have a Southeast chapter? I think that was the question I was asked, right? I will be asked. Yes, that's something we have looked at, and maybe that's something we can do. And I would definitely like to do that. The Indian chapter, though, still welcomes people to get involved. This is the Indian chapter. If you want to scan that QR code, they welcome people, not just in India, to get involved. We have a lot of great activity here. This is Arun, who's from Walmart, and Kamlesh are the leaders there. They have weekly meetings, and they do lots of activities. They've done a lot of hackathons, what we call virtual hackathons. They've done 2 of those. And coming up soon, they have this blockchain stories where anybody can come along, you had to propose, and they give you a time to talk about what you're doing in blockchain. So you can find out what small companies, large companies, what companies are doing with enterprise blockchain. So please do attend that when they're coming through October, November. It'll be a great series, which you're very welcome to join. We do have meetups. We have had them in Malaysia, but I think COVID has got rid of a lot of physical meetups. So we're doing a lot of virtual stuff. So we're going to talk about that in a minute as well. Other things you should do, you should get trained and certified. We do have courses. We have a lot of free technology, which is from what is blockchain and what is business blockchain. Where did Bitcoin come? How does Ethereum used? What is it? What it takes you through that journey. We have a lot of that stuff on edx.org, which is free. We have Introduction to Hyperledger Technologies, but also you can get certified. You can become a Fabric administrator and a Fabric developer, and there's a special course. And actually Simon here runs a lot of courses, and others do in Malaysia as well, which you can get certified here locally. You can become a member. I'm not going to talk about that today, but if you're a company or an organization, you want to get more involved in what we're doing globally, we have a very vibrant community globally. And please, do approach me if you want to do that. And also, if you are a member and you have passed that certification, these are the companies that have been certified at a certain level. They're engineers and they're Hyperledger members, and they have what we call Hyperledger certified service providers. So if you want to get involved in this, if you're a technologist and you want to get involved with companies, this, obviously I think get trained up. These are the kind of companies that are hiring internationally, and obviously we have people here talking about locally as well. And if you're a developer, sign up for your Developer Weekly. So that's just a quick overview. There, I think was just the 30 minutes about what's happening in Hyperledger. That's just a skim over. Please do go to these sites to look for more. If you want to get involved and you can't find out, you can always link with me on LinkedIn, and I can point you in the direction. Dorothy's there as well, and we have a large ecosystem of people who are all happy to introduce you and get involved in this community. Okay, Jason? I think
all right. Wow. Thank you so much, Julian. I think that was a wealth of information. Okay. So many takeaways. Okay. One of my takeaways, okay, is that Hyperledger, plenty of use cases. One of the things that I saw really is the number of, just maybe 1 year ago, okay, the use cases were maybe just a few, right? And now it has exploded. Okay, in this, we'll get to that in a bit, right? There's so much, okay, that we can cover. All right, so let's begin, okay, our panel, okay, with all three of you here. Before we begin, okay, into the questions, so many questions I want to ask. Simon Levine, okay, would you give just a very quick introduction? Okay, Simon, will you go first? Okay, introduce Rigoff, okay, and your involvement, okay, in the Hyperledger ecosystem.
Okay, so let me be quick here. So at Rigoff Technologies, first of all, we are a Malaysian business. So we are fully based here. We have over 40 technicians working with enterprise blockchain, exclusively Hyperledger, mainly Sawtooth, Fabric, and Indy. Julian was talking about, but we also do conversational AI development as an additional capability. To myself, I'm obviously not born here in Malaysia, so I'm from Germany, but I've chosen Malaysia as my home 5 years ago. So since then, I'm here, working for big multinationals in the pharmaceutical industry, as well as running startups and building new companies such as Rig of Technologies. I think one interesting thing I might add here from a Malaysian perspective. So there's quite a bit going on here in the ecosystem as well. I think we, including myself, we are not so good yet at bubbling that up and making sure there's international recognition for it. But regardless, there's a lot of work done for financial services companies, for the insurance industry, for the asset management industry, but also for the democratic process here in Malaysia, which I find particularly exciting. So we did one project together with Versailles to run simulated recall elections. And now we are working with another party to create their version of liquid democracy. So to continuously poll the rakyat, so they know which policies to support. So I think also in Malaysia, there's quite a bit going on, and people that are capable of developing enterprise blockchains, they have quite a lot of opportunities. If there are any questions around that, of course, I can add a bit more details if so desired.
Okay, Levine, your turn. Can you just give a quick introduction, okay, to yourself? And you're from IBM, right? And what has been your experience, okay, working with Hyperledger?
Thanks, Jason. So I work in IBM within a software brand called IBM Sterling. I focus on helping clients reduce friction in their supply chains, as well as improving collaborative business to business. I work across Asia Pacific. And so my work primarily is conducting executive briefings around the use of blockchain for business for enterprise computing. And positioning our Sterling applications, such as the IBM blockchain platform, which we have donated the entire source code for the console and a few tokenization SDKs and so on to Hyperledger. And so we still position the IBM cloud blockchain service, blockchain as a service. And several IBM application solutions that use the Hyperledger fabric, such as Food Trust, which is now also called IBM Transparent Supply, because it's not only available for food. Walmart was implemented around 2017. Since then, we've added about 300 plus high-profile supply chain organizations to provide transparency, provenance, traceability, in a multi-echelon visibility across the entire end-to-end supply chain. So I don't work as a developer in the blockchain space, but on that cusp between business and technology, positioning blockchain for business or blockchain for enterprise. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. Now, before we go further, right, okay, and talk about the topic in question, right, which is how do we increase adoption here in Southeast Asia, right? How do we get more people into the Hyperledger ecosystem? I think that there is a very okay. So, would you agree that the conversation is louder, okay, on the cryptocurrency side? All right. The what's that? And we're right now broadcasting, okay, to one of our largest groups, which is Bitcoin Malaysia. Facebook group has 100,000 enthusiasts there, right? Okay, that potentially can be watching. So one of the common questions that I get a lot is that when we look at blockchains, we are very familiar, okay, with how blockchains are secured economically, which usually that there is either okay, like proof of work, right? Okay, where you need to consume a lot of electricity, have a lot of like resources put in, and that secures the network. Or B, okay, you have proof of stake, where basically there's a token that exists, right? And people need to stake the token so that it secures the blockchain network. Can you share with the audience, as the first question, right? How, is it that a blockchain can still be secure, right, without having a token? Who would like to take this? Simon?
Okay, pleasure. So one of my personal favorite consensus protocols is the practical Byzantine fault tolerance protocol. Without going into too much technical detail, how that works is, you still have multiple nodes in your blockchain network, right? And the nodes receive commands from the user or the general who says, okay, execute this transaction, and then they communicate with each other. Right. Now there's a probability that one of the nodes is corrupted and says, hey, I received the instruction to do this transaction. Everyone else agree with me, do it. And actually this is not true. Yeah, the user didn't send that instruction. So now what's going to happen is the other nodes, they check in with each other. Hey, what instruction did you get? Hey, what instruction did you get? Hey, what instruction did you get? And this way, basically, they vote out the illegal input into the network. Yeah. Apologies to all the technicians. I know I oversimplified this, but this is how you can build consensus without using a token or burning incredible amounts of energy, for example.
Right. So that is actually an excellent example of how, when people want to solve a problem, okay, they cannot trust each other, but they decided, let's have like a consensus protocol, a way to keep everyone in check so that we can create a trusted environment. You don't need a token for that. But what Hyperledger and these technologies are able to do, allow us is to build, okay, and make that actually happen. So all right, so let's go into the topic. Okay, there are so many use cases here. What first question that I would like to ask, okay, is what is missing from the Hyperledger ecosystem right now in Southeast Asia? What is lacking? Julian, would you like to go first? Oh, you're muted.
You unmuted me. I was muted. Yeah, so I think first we have to say, that we do have quite a vibrant community here already, right? We have a lot of developers. I would say, how do you increase? I think you can always increase adoption because this technology is going to grow. And I think one of the key things to those is education. So you need, for all this technology, right, you need good, obviously, business people understand how to use technology, how to translate that into business and for government activity. But one of the key things is that we want to increasingly have more and more education about how to use the technology, and I think that's what Simon's doing, that's what IBM is doing, providing that kind of technology base. So I think we can have more and more. But we do have amazing. As I said, we have the second ever CBDC in the world is in Cambodia, right? First ever, there's lots of firsts in this part of the world. It's a lot of very cool stuff happening.
Right. So another question that I'd like to ask then, okay, is that you have shown, okay, a wealth of places where people can go, like working groups, like special interest, particular groups. What kind of skills, okay, do people need to have in order to feel that they can contribute something? Must they only be technical? Okay, if it is a technical thing, what kind of skills? If it is non-technical thing, what is needed?
Well, you have to have a pulse first. So you have anybody's welcome because we need everybody. This is something that's re-engineering everything, right? So we need people from all kinds of skill sets to come involved, not just the technology. The technology is one part of it, but you have to be able to people who can develop technology. We want people who come along and just help run meetings, right? We need everybody. It's a community that everyone can come and learn and get involved. Sorry, Simon and Levine may have other ideas as well.
Yeah. I think a good handle of the subject domain is particularly important, right? Keeping within the confines of the topic, how to increase adoption, I think what is missing is a balanced conversation. And why it's needed is 9 out of 10 conversations I have every week with clients in the entire Asia Pac region is not about digital currencies. It's not about cryptocurrencies. It's not about representing the physical world as digital assets. It's about how does blockchain actually change the business? How does blockchain change how businesses work, right? And that's one of the interesting use cases I've been working on over the last couple of years, especially in the last year. There's been, things have moved in leaps and bounds, right? So in essence, what is needed is to raise awareness of how blockchain actually makes things fundamentally different for business today, right? And just to give you a bit of a taster, in essence, no business is really an island, right? Your business, whatever business you're in, always trades with other businesses, right? You're buying stuff or you're selling stuff. That's the reality, right? And so if you take a bird's eye view of what actually happens in that ecosystem that you're trading in, every business invariably is in a supply chain. Whether you're a supply chain oriented business or not, you are in a supply chain because you're buying and selling stuff, right? So if you take a bird's eye view, there's a number of activities that are happening in your ecosystem, right? Trade relationships are established and maintained. Physical objects are created, transformed, transported. Assets are deployed and maintained. Business transactions are conducted. Important supporting documents are exchanged. And lastly, money changes hands, right? So there's a number of dimensions by which information is exchanged in that ecosystem, right? And up until now, there hasn't been a technology that can capture all of these dimensions that gives you comprehensive visibility. And let me just say that fundamentally why it's different now is that it's not prior to this, the way businesses exchange information with their trading partners it was bi-directional pairwise exchange, right? I send my supplier a purchase order, I receive an invoice, and I do that with multiple trading partners, right? So it's always been bi-directional. We've just now transcended into a new world where information is co-created by community participants and it's shared across community participants, right? So it's more of a network model, right? It fundamentally changes how we do business. So what is needed is to raise awareness that this is fundamentally what blockchain does to the world, right? The simple thing of an invoice is really a request for payment, right? I supplied you with goods, I'm requesting payment. Guess how old the invoice is? They found in an invoice dated back 3,000 years, etched on a clay tablet, right? And imagine that 3,000 years, we've continued in this bi-directional transactional approach. Now it's all about co-creating and working as a network, right? Which is fundamentally different, right? And that's the awareness we need to raise.
Got it. Wow, that's really interesting. Okay, that 3,000 years ago, we actually, we still need to transact. We need a way to go into settle payments.
Yeah.
We have a question, okay, from the audience. Shafiq asks, how would you rate, okay, the infrastructure readiness in Southeast Asia, to adopt, okay, blockchain within the next 3 to 5 years? What can be done about it, if any? Simon, would you like to comment on this?
Yeah, I can comment on that. Actually, as a technologist, I can tell you this problem is solved. I mean, as Julian nicely showed, all the big cloud providers, they are supporting blockchain infrastructure. Don't worry about infra. I mean, the only question is, would you prefer to work with IBM, with Oracle, with AWS, with Alibaba, with Microsoft, or Google, or any of the others? But this problem is solved. I think the bigger problem we need to still work on is, as Julian mentioned, I think is the talent supply. So there is a shortage of people that make use of that infrastructure and that make use of that infrastructure in an intelligent way. And I mean, speaking as a businessman sitting in Malaysia here, I think I see a lot of the conversation is about, hey, the universities, they should do it, or the government should do it. But I think also as businesses, we really need to be a bit more accountable here, and offer internships, offer opportunity to graduates, offer training for senior professionals as well. A bit as a shameless plug here. So in collaboration with Yaya-san, I mean, we are offering to train 75 Malaysians now. Experienced professionals to become certified in Hyperledger Fabric in India. right? So we are trying to do our part as much as we can. And I think to answer the question on the screen here, to increase adoption, I think what would be awesome if we have a lot of other companies joining us, doing the same. Because I genuinely believe if every company out there just gives 5 to 10 opportunities for graduates and then trains 50 to 100 people in a year, the talent supply issue is solved.
Right. Right. Julian, can you comment, okay, because you shared, okay, that there are so many other chapters all across the world. One chapter, like that's missing is the Southeast Asia chapter. It could be a Malaysia chapter first, or a Indonesia or Thai chapter, or entire Southeast Asia chapter. Is there something that you can share on, maybe a story from another chapter? Which chapter, okay, had started out, okay, and done really well that we can learn, okay, and then we can build up a chapter in Southeast Asia here?
Well, the way it all started, so we started these, we have meetups in every country. We do have a meetup page. Some of them are very active, some are not so active. And actually, COVID has kind of changed the whole way we do things. Actually, a lot of webinars are more global or regional, right? So, a meetup like this can be watched by anybody, right? You could be in Kazakhstan and watching this today, right? There is no limitation. We don't have to go and sit in a meetup. So, so we started with 2 chapters. The first one was technical working group with China, and that was really about the fact that China has a language barrier, and also we have a geographical barrier. A lot of stuff happens in North America and Western Europe. So we set up, been very, very successful. They've written their own code bases, right? They've translated all the languages. They continuously have events. They meet on a regular basis, right? And been very successful. And then we decided to have a more kind of business and technical orientated one. So the first one of that was India. I set that up. So the technical one, China was 4 years ago. I think it was maybe just under 4 years ago. We set up the Indian chapter. We got together with people from Intel at that time, and we set up a group. We put a proposal together. We sent that to our board, and that got approved. And I can help. If we want to do that for Southeast Asia, I'm happy to sit down with anyone who wants to take a leadership position, pull that together, maybe a group of people, and then they created the platform. And once you've got that platform, we provide, they have a LinkedIn page, they have a part of our wiki, they have a bunch of, they have a Rocket Chat, and then they create their community. That's been very, very successful. I think India has been the most successful outside China. And that was the first one that was set up. We also have a South American one, which is really around Spanish speaking. We have Japan, which is now around, obviously Japanese. A lot of it's around language and regions. So they've all been successful, but I'd say India has been remarkably successful. And I think Southeast Asia could definitely do the same thing. I have had discussions with people about that, and we're very happy to talk with anybody about who wants to do that and pull that together and help kind of coach that community.
Okay, so we talked about leadership, right? We talk about leadership. Is what is it lacking? Simon, can you comment? Okay, like for Malaysia, for example, do you feel that there is a lack of leadership? Okay, people trying to, because the use cases are there, right? Okay, the resources are there, the wealth of information that Julian, anybody can basically watch the last 1 hour and basically pick up, certain things, okay, that is relevant in their industry. But do you think, okay, that's what is lacking, okay, in this part of the world? Can you comment? Leadership.
So let me go out on a limb here and be really open now. So Julian and I, we had a conversation about this also earlier. So there is activity happening, but one thing I also found living here in Malaysia, we are rather, and with we I mean we Malaysians, including me, we are very understatement. So we meet, we talk to each other, we do something interesting, and then we don't talk about it. Right. So this is why it's not necessarily visible what is happening here, like progress on e-voting activity, for example, where I believe, yes, that might be interesting on an international stage actually, but we do it and then we don't talk about it. So I think there is a bit of self-criticism here as well, to be more vocal about what is done. I think this is one element. And then the other thing is, I mean, as mentioned, yeah, I mean, there's the marketing element to it, yeah, but also there's the implementation element. So quite some of the things we do, I mean, they also deliver to foreign customers. So they in a way leave Southeast Asia. They invent it here, but then they get used somewhere else. So I think we could also do a bit better at educating our own local ecosystem of potential customers. Yeah, at hey, what are the benefits? Yeah, how they can be involved? How they can become part of the network. And I think here also on a access association level, I think we can do some good work here as well. And the other thing Julian and I talked about is that it's also about educating not only entrepreneurs, but also other IT leaders that run IT companies what the opportunity is. So one free blip. So IDC projected that for 2022, the enterprise blockchain market will be 11.7 billion US dollars. So that's not the money our customers are making. This is the money we in the industry can make. So there is a big opportunity getting more tech companies involved. That also provides more opportunity than to have the leadership needed, plus the following, plus the customer base. Because as a business leader, I have to be pragmatic here. So running events is useful if that drives technological progress or if that drives customer adoption. So we need to have one of the two or both objectives, then we will succeed. And I think here locally, we need to do a little bit of education to make sure that people actually believe that is going to happen, because otherwise it's difficult to pull them in.
Oh, I think it's going to happen. It's just that people don't know. Okay, like Julian. Okay, really the information is there, but what's that? We are running out of time. Okay, just like to just summarize. Okay, the takeaways that I got today. Number one. Okay, I got from Levine. Okay, that the mental model has to change. Right. Okay, it's not putting the horse. Okay, uh, at the back of the cart. Okay, it's about solving problems. The whole purpose, okay, of blockchain is not okay to digitalize everything, but is to improve the what's that to reduce, okay, solve a problem, solve a trust gap, okay. And the only way to do that, okay, is to for each individual, people in the industry, okay, to identify his own pain point, strike up a use case, actually, execute it. We talked about use cases. Julian, thank you again for the last 1 hour.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, I think people can rewatch this, okay, and just absorb, okay, and then do a lot of research, expand upon that, right? And last but not least, Simon, thank you so much, okay, for the work that you're doing, okay, in Malaysia, right? We look forward, okay, towards, okay, the next year, okay, where we see even more use cases, right? And a lot more adoption, okay, and I also, a Southeast Asia chapter in potential as well. So thank you so much, okay, to our panelists today, Levine, Julian, and Simon. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you, Jason.
so
Thank
that
you for
brings,
having us.
okay, so that brings the end, okay, to day number 2, okay, of Enterprise Blockchain Week number 2. Please scan the QR code, okay, to claim your proof of attendance token. We have a new one for you for this week. Scan the QR code. It will take you to a page where you just put in your Ethereum address, and you can claim this special NFT, okay, that is limited, okay, to prove, okay, that you have attended this, event, okay, at this point in time. Last but not least, be back here tomorrow at 5 p.m. as we're sitting 1 more hour, okay, with Consensus Quorum for Enterprise Blockchain Week day number 3. See you guys. Have a good evening. Bye.